recording now. Hello, AP Computer Science A. This is March 26th. This is our second distance learning meeting together. I hope you're all having a fantastic day so far. Let me present this to you now. Not a window. Hold on. One moment. Present screen, and we should be A-OK. All right, you should be able to see it, yes? Good. Does everybody see Dr. Java loaded in and everything like that?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. So what I asked you guys to do between last class and this class is try to complete these AP Computer Science A multiple choice practice problems and then answer via the Google form so we could compare the results for this class. If you were able to do that, then that's fantastic. We did get 7 responses, which is not everybody, which is not fantastic to hear, but maybe you were like, oh, shoot, I forgot, or oh, I wasn't really familiar with that, or oh, do I have the opportunity to do it now? Well, if you didn't have the opportunity to do it, you can certainly feel free to give it a shot on your own time. But I would ask that in the future, you make sure, SMH, I would make sure that you please make sure you get that done, okay? But in the start of every class, especially since our primary goal at this point is to really prepare for the AP Computer Science A exam. So since that's really what we're here to do now, since the curriculum got cut due to the current situation, that's our primary idea. All right, so what I'd like to do, and pretty much what's going to be the pattern going forward, is I am going to give you 5 multiple choice questions to try on your own. The AP Computer Science A exam, I believe, is going to be free response only. I don't believe there are going to be multiple choice questions on the AP Computer Science A exam. So you might be like, well, why the heck are we practicing using a bunch of multiple choice questions? Well, the reason for that is the College Board has yet to release the actual specific topics that is going to be covered on the AP exam. And until they, as far as what the free response questions will focus on, and until they do, I figure that these multiple choice questions are a good way to keep everybody sharp on their skills that they need to know for the AP exam. I'm not going to feature any multiple choice questions that are not like topics that could potentially be on the AP exam. So you won't get a 2D array multiple choice question, for example, from me as part of this distance learning, because that part got cut off of the AP Computer Science A exam. But you will get a couple others because I think it is a good way to keep fresh on everything that we've been doing. I'm also going to use this time to have you guys check in as it relates to your final project or any other programs that you happen to be working on. All the programs that I've assigned up to this point are still programs that are assigned, and they are still normal assignments that you should submit via Google Classroom. I know some of the grades are not 100% updated, and I'll make sure to do that sooner rather than later, probably tomorrow. It's kind of a weird schedule for me with the distance learning because I have periods A5 and A7 that I don't have a class, and so on blue days I'm teaching continuously, and on white days I only have Algebra 2 CP. That nicks in, by the way. But so on those white days I'm able to get a lot of work done, and I'll make sure to try to update your grades if I can. All right. Yeah. So that's pretty much it. But anyway, I'd like to go through these multiple choice problems with you. Again, if anybody has any questions, please feel free to chime in and just unmute your mic and ask. If you have any questions about the structure of this class, about the structure of distance learning, about really anything I could help you with, then by all means. All right, so starting over here with the first problem. The first problem was just on conditional statements. It was, given this code segment, if n is of type integer and has the value of 0 when the statement is executed, which of these best describes what will happen? According to our results, we now have 8 responses, which is great. Someone must have just been like, oh, shoot, I forgot to do it. But anyway, we have the majority saying D. We have one person saying A. A was definitely like a tempting trick answer because you can see that x divided by n would technically result in x dividing by 0. However, since this is an AND statement, as soon as one of these conditions is not true, then it would just automatically execute as false. Because remember, for AND, you need both of these conditions to be true. This first one, n is not equal to 0, well, n is 0. So therefore, it would immediately just evaluate this whole expression as false. Your program would actually never get to this statement that says x divided by n is greater than 100. So that's just one thing to consider. Anyway, I think some people are jumping in, right? Is that what I keep hearing? Yeah, some people jumping in, which is good. Hopefully it's all working out for everybody. I know the tech can be a little weird. I know yesterday there was somewhat of an issue with people dropping out, but in any case. So this program actually, this statement would be false, so therefore it would go to the else statement, and your correct response should be D, which the majority of you got correct, that it should result in statement 2 being executed, but not statement 1. I actually went ahead and typed that up in Dr. Java. I just gave X some random value so the program would compile. I've set N equal to 0. If we compile and run, you see that it prints statement 2. All right. Any questions about that at all? All right, moving on to our second practice problem. This one was on methods and how values get assigned to methods. It says, what will be the output produced by this program? We have just some random class. We have a random method that takes 2 values and augments them and then prints them. Same thing here. We have just a main method that has 2 values, passes them into the method, and prints them. Well, what should be noted here is that when I have int a is equal to 6 and int b is equal to 3, we pass 6 and 3 into this strange method, right? So that means that this value, I'm just going to add in some comments here, that's why I want to give myself a lot of room here, is that the value of x would be set equal to 3 because, or sorry, set equal to 6 because a was 6. And since a is now the first parameter that I'm passing in, let's make sure everybody's able to get it. Everybody's getting in, right? Yeah, people are coming on in. Okay, just making sure. Since x is equal to 6, or since a is equal to 6, since it's the very first variable, that means x is equal to 6. We'd also have y being equal to 3 because that's the second variable, right? B is equal to 3. It gets passed in second, so it's therefore going to be assigned to the value of y. When I now have that x plus equals y, that means that x is going to equal itself plus the value of y. So at this point, x is now going to equal 9 because that's going to be 6 plus 3. At this point, we now have y equals times equals x. Well, x is equal to 9, so that times equals again means just take the value of y, multiply it by itself times x. So that's going to now be 9 times 3, which is 27. So y would equal 27. At this point, the method would then print out x, then a space, then y. So it would print out 9, then a space, then 27. Now that that strange method is finished executing, it's now going to skip down to here. It's going to print a and then b. So that should print 6 and 3 because a and b haven't changed at all. They just got passed somewhere, but that somewhere didn't result in anything changing. So we should print 9, 27, oops, then 6, and then 3, which I believe happens in choice E. And looking at results, we got E being the majority result, which is good. Okay. Any questions on that? I know I heard this go off a little bit. Okay, Mr. Ferrer can see now. That's fantastic. Everybody's in. Yeah, look at that. We got a full house here. Fantastic. Oh, Molly did end up joining. Good. I'm glad you managed to get in. Excellent. All right, so going now to question 3. It looks like the majority choice was C, so let's take a look at how that looked. It said, let list be an array list of type integer containing these elements in order from index 0 to the last index, list.size minus 1. So we have 2, 5, 7, 6, 0, 1. Which of the following would not cause an error to occur? Assume that each statement applies to the list. So first of all, we have object ob equals list.get at index 6. If you notice, this would be index 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There is no index 6, so this would obviously cause an issue. So it's not choice A. Choice A would be very bad. Choice B says integer int object equals list.add 3.4. This is all sorts of messed up. First of all, 3.4 is a decimal. It's a double value, which would not fit with our integer. Secondly, list.add doesn't return anything. It just adds a value to the list. So this is all messed up. This definitely would not work. We now have list.add 6, 4. What that means is, again, we want to add at index 6. We want to add the value of 4. We have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So wouldn't that add the value of 4 right at the end of this? That's what the majority of people said, and I agree with you. This actually would not cause an error. It would just add the value of 4 at index 6, which just so happens to be the next value. You're right that there is no current index 6, but your array list would say, oh, we just need to add it to the end, so that's totally fine. This is the value that would not cause an error. This one would, because if you're trying to say object x equals list.remove 6, you could certainly do something like list.get get 6, or 6 isn't even really an index in the array right now, or the array list, so you really couldn't do that. But you could retrieve that value and then store it in a new object. You would definitely need the keyword new, though, in order to make that happen. Unfortunately, with the way it is now, this would definitely not work. And last but not least, again, this is asking you to set index 6 to be something. We could do that because, or we can't do that because index 6 doesn't exist. And then we also couldn't say that something equals that. Set is not a method that returns anything. It's a void method. So that also would not work. So your correct choice here would be C. C is what would result in no error. Does anybody have any question about that at all?
If we were to do something like list.add7, would that cause an error?
Great question. That should cause an error, yeah. If we said list.add7, 4, now we'd be asking it to skip an index, and so that would definitely cause an error. Ryan, that's a great question. That's a great question.
I have a question.
Yeah, what's up?
Would letter E work if the object y equals wasn't before it, or if there was a new in it?
That's a good question. If you just had like list.set 6, 8, I'm actually not sure if that would work because there is no current index 6, so I don't believe that would work. We could certainly test it out right now if you want to really fast. I'll do that really super fast. So let's get rid of our little test program here. Let's make our array list called lists. All right, we can go ahead and just add those elements. What were the elements in order? It looked like 257601. So we're going to add 2. And then I'm just going to copy this over and over. 57601. So we got 5, 7, whoops, 6, 0, and 1. So we now have those values in the list. And now we're asking to do list.set 6, 8. Let's find out. I don't believe this is going to work, but we'll find out. Oh. No. We are out of bounds because there is no index 6. If I did list.add, that should work because now we're just adding something to the end of the list. It just executes no problem. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, no problem. Any other questions? That was a great question. All right, very good. Moving on to question 4. This following segment is intended to find and display the minimum value of an array stored in a list of integers. So it sets this value called min equal to the first value in the array. It then says int I is 1, while I is less than array.length. We increase the value of I by 1, so I is now 2. We say if array at index 2 is less than min, then it sets it equal to that value and then prints it out in the end, right? So essentially the idea of this program is to start with just assuming the first value stored in the array is the lowest one, cycle through the whole array, and then if you find something that's lower than what we started with, well then change the value of min to now be the lower thing. Well, this code is definitely incorrect. There's definitely a mistake here. And for the segment to work as intended, which of the following modifications could be made to the above code sample? The majority opinion was D, so let's go ahead and take a look. D was 1 and 2 only. If I changed int I equals 1 to int I equals 0, would that work? Well, I think it would, because now, if I start at int I equals 0, we now should be able to increase the value of I to make it now start at index 1. And we're now going to be comparing index 1, index 2, index 3, index 4, all the way to the end. So actually, yes, changing that from int I is 1 to int I is 0 would work. The actual main issue now is that since int I is 1 and then it gets increased right away, you would never check index 1 itself. So the fact that the lowest value could be hiding at index 1, that's really the crux of why this program doesn't work as in its current form. So this one works. So choice 1, definitely a success. Choice 2 says change the body of the while loop to the following code. If array at index I is less than the minimum, then set the minimum equal to that and increase I by 1. Essentially, it's just saying move this I++ to the bottom. And that would also fix your issue because now you would check index 1 and then increase after that loop has already executed. Choice 3 says change the test for the while loop from array I is less than array.length to I is less than or equal to array.length. That would actually break your program even more because that would cause your program to go out of bounds. Because remember, the indices of an array are numbered from 0 to array.length minus 1. If you're trying to check at array.length, that would be very bad. That would be very bad. So the correct choice here should be choice D, which again was the majority choice. Any questions about that? I like that the other choices, or at least this choice for A, was the fact that 1 does work, but 2 also works. So do keep that in mind. 3 does not work. All right, and lastly, moving on to question 5. Question 5 was all about the math.random formula and how that works. That is something that you are required to know for the AP Computer Science A exam, so that's why I wanted to throw it on here. If you had to look it up, then so be it. That's fine. That was sort of the intent of this question, to say, hey, I may not actually know the math.random formula, so I may have to look it up. And the majority choice was choice B for math.random. You want to do int, and because you want to cast to an int, math.random times the highest value you're looking for minus the lowest value you're looking for, and then plus the low value on the end. And that is exactly how it works. The math.random formula essentially says I want to start at this value of low, and I want to proceed this many numbers, or the difference in numbers, away from it. So for example, if I had, I'll just type it right here, int math.random. What math.random does, it generates a random number between 0 and 1. But we can augment that by saying, let's say if we did this, right? What that will do is that will generate a random number starting at 5 and going up to 20 values away from 5, but also including 5. So it would generate anything from 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. So that would generate anything from 5 up to 24, inclusive. So including 5 and including 24. Keep in mind that that would actually not generate the number 25, which is a very common mistake. All right. Typically, this is written with the multiplication out in front. So you've probably seen that when I've given you the syntax before, but that's the idea. All right. Any other questions, comments, concerns about that? So that is how the math.random formula works. We're all happy with that?
I have a quick question.
What do you got?
So the +1 for C.
Sure.
What's the difference between the two?
So the +1 would generate something beyond the value of high. It would be like that example if I said you want to generate a number between 5 and 24 inclusive, and then you threw a +1 on here. Now that would generate something between 5 and 25 instead of 5 and 24.
Oh, okay, I understand now.
Okay, great. And the -1 would do the opposite. That would be going from 5 to 23, which wouldn't encompass all of your numbers.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome, Max. Thank you. Any other question about that? Okay, fantastic. So those were the 5 multiple choice questions I asked you to do for today. Again, if you didn't do them, then I know there was a lot of confusion about the distance learning. Please try to make sure you do them. It's only to your benefit to give them a shot. And also make sure you do the next set that I'm going to post tomorrow for Monday's class. Lastly, I want to say, does anybody have any questions for me concerning our final project? Any questions concerning the final project? I actually did not get any emails for groups for the final project. So just a little reminder, you are allowed to work in pairs if you need to work with a partner. I would recommend working with a partner because it's a lot of work and it is fun to collaborate. So if you do have any questions, please feel free, or if you do have any question about it, please feel free to ask. But again, you can feel free to work on your own if you so desire to work by yourself. That's fine too. But I would recommend working with a partner. Just email me when you have your pair decided. You don't both have to email me. Just one of you is totally fine. But just send me an email and say, Mr. Giorgio, we're going to be working together on this project. And then I'll check in a little more with your ideas come next week. All right. Any other questions for us today?
So the AP exam is 100% no multiple choice.
As far as I know, the AP exam is going to be a 45-minute free response, which is what was indicated by the College Board. I will have more information on Friday, April 3rd, where they said they would actually post the specific topics. And if that is the case, that is when we're going to transition to doing a lot of free response practice. Pretty much all of these classes will be like, let's drill some free response practice.
All right.
All right. But the multiple choice, again, just helps you stay sharp on what you need to know. That's why I think it's still valuable. Any other question about that?
Mr. Giorgio, that's so bad.
What happened?
It's free response.
Oh, I know. We'll work through it. Don't worry. We'll get through it. We'll get through it.
Oh goodness.
We'll get through it.
I'm scared for that now.
We'll get through it, Molly. Don't worry. We got you. We got you covered. Hopefully you were able to watch the video lesson from last class too, if you missed this class. So, or if you missed it last time.
Yep, I did.
Awesome. Happy to hear it. Happy to hear it. Any other questions or comments for me?
Is anything going to change with like the URI dual enrollment thing?
That's a great question. At this time, I don't believe anything's changing as far as that goes. You'll still be able to get course credit. It'll still all count as it should. So, if I have more information for you, though, I will get that to you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else? I don't know if Mr. Ferreira is still here. I don't have the meet actually up on my screen. Mr. Ferreira is here. I don't know if you have anything to add, or if he's busy. I know it's right in the middle of the workday, so it's kind of a tough time to jump in. But
nothing to add.
All right, fantastic.
My first extended learning, or whatever, distance learning.
Oh yeah, it's a fun time. It's a fun time. We get through it all.
I had to disconnect my VPN for a moment because I'm working on my work laptop.
Gotcha. I want to note that everybody is free to send Mr. Ferreira an email if you need to email Mr. Ferreira. He's a great resource to have too. I'll send that contact information out to you guys. All right.
I look forward to getting your emails.
Yay. Thank you so much for helping. It's a big help. Anything else? Alrighty, that about concludes our time together today. I'm going to stop our recording.